So this talk comes from a larger work in progress about artists and activists who use drag. Their drag personas and performances, I suggest, can provide unique vantage points from which to consider our shared political present. The project is built around ethnographic portraits of these cultural workers and takes place across 3 sites: Israel, Palestine, here in Berlin, and New York City, where I've lived for the last 8 years. These are sites that are bound together by particular and overlapping social tensions, including violent conflicts related to class stratification, ethno-national belonging, and racial antipathy. Israel, Palestine, and Berlin are both scarred by linked historical and contemporary traumas tied to war, occupation, and ethnic cleansing, while New York, like other major cities in the industrial West, suffers from what I would call a creeping fascism, the normalization of the concentration of wealth, the erosion of social services, racial profiling, and securitization. So in the talk today, I only offer portraits from Israel, Palestine, and from Berlin. The larger project will include 3 or 4 times as many, and in case you're wondering, it will also include research with native Berliners like Caipirinha, and you can also read, hopefully in just a few years, about others like Svetlana Palmal, Chica Rose, Patsy Lamour Lalove, Luxuria Rosenberg, Fatma Suad, Vaginal Davis, among others. So RuPaul Diva D, along with a few other engagements with radical drag, led me to ask a question. Can drag model non-fascist ways of living that are free from the desire to be led? So for anyone who's spent any time with drag queens, this question should have you laughing by now and shaking your head, no. So just give me a moment. This is just the quasi-theoretical introduction where I have to name names. You can try to read me to filth later. The question is inspired, of course, by Michel Foucault, who understood fascism not only as referring to specific political formations, but to the fascism in us all, in our heads and in our everyday behavior. The fascism that causes us to love power, to desire the very thing that dominates and exploits us. This sort of fascism is undeniably on the rise in the reckless greed that fuels environmental catastrophe, the loneliness amplified by hours spent in front of screens in search of connection, or the hyperconsumerism that leaves us all feeling ugly or behind the curve of what's supposed to be happening right now. So what can drag aesthetics teach us about the cult-like worship of power, about how to undermine it, or how to build alternative worlds? Of course, like Butler, I don't claim that drag provides any actionable solutions to neoliberalism, militarism, racism, or any other ism. But drag performers, like medieval court jesters, do occupy a threshold from which they can offer a critical vantage point to examine and respond to what might otherwise seem like a political impasse. Their drag aesthetics can therefore also function as an ethics, as in Foucault's words, an intensifier of thought, and as a multiplier of the forms and domains for the intervention of political action. So in the examples that follow, I hope to show a little bit about how drag helps these artists and activists to make space for themselves in local, transnational, political, and aesthetic flows, as well as offering some creative ways to think and talk about the relations between bodies, pleasures, and politics. So drag's vitality stems in part from the ways it refuses or reframes the ways things are or the ways they should be, like gender or norms of beauty or politics as such. The ways drag embraces minoritization, the ways it mixes loving bitchiness with fierce critique.